I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Welcome to one of the most important videos I've made to date. That intro was from the RACER demo day competition that I hosted in Ohio. I thought about ways to help people outside of videos, and while out hiking, I got the idea to build an event. We planned, gathered material, moved material, cut material, built structures, cut trees, pulled trees, cleared trails, opened fields, moved earth, dug trenches, shoveled earth, filled sandbags, built bunkers, concealed positions, made props, made graphics, strategized concepts, tested hangups, tested times, and fought off politicians. I mean snakes. Lots of snakes. This took several months of design, labor, and way too much money to facilitate a range day that goes beyond the fundamentals of shooting. I first want to say huge thanks to everyone that came to walk the walk instead of blowing smoke, and know that nothing that I say in this video reflects their opinions, nor am I claiming that the lessons learned were any fault of the competitors. This was by design a way for shooters to see how well their gear and weapon systems perform in comparison to other options or to what influencers told them. There's a lot of snake oil out there, and the only way to win this event and defeat the serpent courses will be with truth, aka skill and capability. A truth that the competitors get to teach themselves rather than an affiliate trying to sell them on a lie or someone using an appeal to authority as evidence to reality. This entire event was done blind at a shooting range without anyone knowing what situation they will find themselves in, which I believe is one of the best ways to see how the individual and his gear can be optimized or where it needs improvement. We had a super sick random collection of builds show up, like a 2.5 to 10, multiple 1 to 8s and 1 to 6s, both with canted and top dots, EOTechs, ACOG stacks, magnifier combos, a bullpup, DMRs, GPRs, SPRs, and even a gooseneck Car 15 to make this quite the coliseum of tech. When we get to the end, you'll be surprised how many things we discovered or maybe already predicted, and don't worry. No course will ever be the same so that returning competitors can't game it. Sport competitions can show pure shooting skill inside of known framework, but blind courses will expose a more realistic performance of skills on demand. All shooters were given the option to not be filmed, but they all agreed, and I can't thank them enough for making it possible to share these natural learning lessons with all of you for a good cause. Seriously guys, thank you. The event started with a beginner drill utilizing both rifle and pistol, which I won't show for trade secrets, and then immediately went to the first course towards their event score. This simple drill is a warm-up for speed, accuracy, gear fitment issues, positional changes on a target that is clothed. Clothing is more realistic to a self-defense situation and tends to offset our perception about a center mass shot since it changes the shape and size of the human torso. Shooters are to immediately go to the prone 2 shots, run to the next position, kneeling 2 shots, and then finish out 3 standing positions to finish out the drill. This first course begins to break down any preconceived opinions about setups not performing well, like a bullpup for example, or a particular long-range optic in a closer setting. I gave a few pointers when appropriate to the shooters and then tallied up the results. Surprisingly, a 1 to 10 power scope won this course, with solo red dots mostly ending in the bottom half. Here the red dot shooter was faster, but the LPVO user was more accurate. Clearly, skill can play a major role over optic setups, but if we have two equally skilled shooters, that is when equipment like optics can start to gain a real advantage. We have several other blue courses that tested fundamentals, skills, and to test safety before starting. This event is very dynamic from how and where you move with staff and positions, so selecting back to safe is a must. You can easily fall or flag staff, and the only way to run this is on safe and finger off of the trigger when moving. Now the fun begins. This started with a briefing about the blind course ahead and included how to find the position and how many targets they must find and engage at each position. These targets are painted green to match the environment, only requiring one hit anywhere inside a C-zone size target. There will be no help, guidance, or directions given unless it was our mistake on the course. Green is all about speed, target discovery, and positional work, but yellow is a bit different. It tests fitness, marksmanship, decision-making, and the mind. Each position has your instructions to complete before moving on to the next position, leaving all blame on the competitor's execution. This is a bit more complex, and don't worry, none of these courses are the same since we change up every event. Some competitors come back a second time heading to a previous position only to find that it's not there anymore. This makes it fair to new challengers as well as new ways to test and new experience if you come back to compete. Now let's start transferring some knowledge. Go ahead and load and make ready. And what you running?
It's a Ballistics lower. It's super lightweight, 5 pounds.
Remember that his competition rifle was only 5 pounds because it'll come into play later. On the sound of the buzzer, the first lesson learned was about gear. As they ran to position 1, his magazine shook loose and fell to the ground. You can see him reaching for something, but time is not on his side, and this course can easily be done in under 30 rounds, 15 to be exact, which only affords 15 misses. If you go over that, which he did, you need to reload. At the last position, he lost 10 points when he had no extra mag, ending his ability to fight. He dropped it.
That's it.
And time, let me see. On the yellow course, his mag broke free again, this time taking the whole QLS fork system with it. Because time is ticking, you can see him trying to read directions while fixing his mag pouch unsuccessfully. As he approaches 2 surprise threats, his 5-pound rifle pays off as he engages both targets one-handed. One of the coolest things I've seen in a while. As he scans and takes new positions, he ends up shooting with the mag in his hand throughout the course until he finally uses the super operator back pocket retention method. Another competitor lost some gear as well. And here this professional PRS shooter is running not only a heavier rifle setup, but a backpack system with gear. His zipper pocket got snagged on the tunnel and later unzips fully where he lost his binos. At this event, shooters are awarded bonus points for running additional gear, which encourages testing your equipment. Something as simple as us giving you additional gear like this fake frag might have you wondering if you have a spot to carry extra stuff that you may need. We have seen people lose Glock mags, sunglasses, hats, and more. This should be your chance back home to make sure your gear is not going to disappear on you the day you may need it. Sport competitions have gotten so competitive, people are using magnetic holsters to gain a split second on draw times, and mag pouches thinner than your mom's G-string. For those of you who prefer larger caliber rifles, you do have a point. I can't play the real footage to showcase the terminal damage of larger calibers, but I can show you that 308 does defeat brush much better.
Nice job.
This competitor shoots directly through this light brush at 100 yards for an impact. When we jump to the 5.56 in similar conditions, you can see it actually deflects the round. It honestly doesn't take much to get a miss. Larger calibers definitely defeat brush better if you don't mind the extra weight. .762 by 3.9 also gives no ducks about brush. Ironically, I have chosen the 5.56 route and had the same deflection experience myself. After getting an impact, I swing to the next target and start hitting a branch that wasn't in my previous view, blocking my bore axis.
What the branch again, maybe?
It was.
Cool.
At this match, another competitor did the same exact thing, but unfortunately we can only call hits.
The hell?
These deflections may hurt your overall ranking, not because you're a bad shooter, but damaging your score from unnecessary misses. A lesson more valuable than winning the event. Mistakes stick with you and make you a better shooter moving forward.
So clear.
This former Marine had even worse luck as he is striking the small branch in his projectile's path. He finally realizes this is happening and adjusts down diagonally right back into the tree's path, again for more deflections. Once he finally realizes this, he makes a final adjustment for an impact.
Hey! Nice job, and time.
This also happens out a bit further than just point blank. Here, this former Marine is striking this larger diameter tree here in his trajectory's path as he is focused on his sight and the target. Speaking of deflections, let's talk about barrel flex. Since we plan out dirty learning experiences here, we had a position where the shooter cannot get good support in a confined space setting. Barriers are great for confined space training, which is what we were using it for here. This position required one arm to support the body, leaving only one arm on the rifle. Especially with the rifle light placement, people will rest the barrel on the barricade with fire control hand weight to the rear, flexing the barrel upward, causing a miss. This miss is actually high above the target like this one. And to explain why, we can illustrate it here. Here is your line of sight from your optic, with it 0 to your bore axis here. If we flex on the barrel upward, you can see that the sight axis is still on target where we want it here, but the bore axis trajectory will be pushed up with the barrel, causing a high hit above the target. This is why 1, a free float handguard is nice since you can flex the handguard, not the barrel. Not only does angled shooting change the projectile path like I showed in my off-angle video, but the barrel flex makes it that much harder. With suppressors, this is even more likely since the larger diameter takes priority over the handguard. Depending on the 3D structure you're shooting on, the suppressor can cause this same flex, resulting in unacceptable misses. Free float handguards also decrease the chance of a barrier strike. Some serious considerations I made a video about already. First off, I'm guilty of this exact same thing. Last summer at a DMR class, I struck the hood of a car after a long string of fire. Too much to explain, but I knew better and I still fell victim to it here. When people aren't shooting through my range bags, they're at this event shooting through barrels, ammo cans, and platforms. Muzzle strikes not only send dangerous debris to self and others, but they also deflect your shot downrange, wasting your time and ammo. You may get into position knowing you have no obstructions in front of your muzzle, and then turn to a new angle like this competitor, not realizing you moved your muzzle behind an obstruction because you were target focused. Muzzle brakes are great for solo precision work to see your projectile traveling downrange. See impact corrections for fast follow-up shots, but they do suck in groups and inside confined spaces. Here you can see the dust cloud after a shot from this bunker, blocking the shooter's vision to find the target downrange. You can see them finding a new angle to view the threat outside of the dust cloud, a common theme with muzzle brakes. For sport competitions, they make sense. Just know that in real life, cheating doesn't always pay off. People game the sports with equipment to shoot flatter and faster in an open solo environment. Open terrain is great to improve on fundamentals, but one last point about confined spaces. I did get to witness a lot of shooters overexposing themselves inside thresholds over and over and over. If you have the element of surprise or high levels of skill to ID and shoot on instinct, that's fine. But others took the safer route and cut their angles before entering. This prevents muzzle exposure inside the room and allows you to ID safely. The other option is to compress the rifle over the shoulder and dig your corner with speed. Some chose to switch to a pistol in confined space to avoid rifle wielding, which is also pretty sweet. Not sure pistol ammo will always do the damage you need, but it was still cool to witness. Just be sure to detransition back on rifle when back to rifle distances. Speaking of transitions, there was a rifle optic malfunction forcing permanent pistol use to complete the event, even on the long range. I would encourage the Just As Good gang to buy rifles and optics that you can rely on. So I was surprised at how many weapon malfunctions there were. Not sure if these were due to user builds causing them, because this PWS shouldn't have this problem. counting a miss. Hit! Nice job!
Oh, you tap right. Oh, you come on now.
Use that forward assist.
I don't have one.
Oh,
Come on.
Start throwing the rounds.
Several shooters had malfunctions due to not press checking their gear, making sure it was loaded.
help if I load it.
Cheap just as good Chinese optic issues. And lastly, ammo issues. This former Marine here had one stuck in the chamber and had to mortar his rifle to clear the malfunction and get it back on target for the hit.
Hey! Nice job, dude.
Steel-cased ammo, of course. I'd hope you invest in reliable weapon systems because nothing you attach to it matters if it doesn't work.
Hey! Nice job.
Speaking of malfunctions, we also had some brain malfunctions. Target ID isn't always about distance. Sometimes it's right in your face. At the beginning of each course, the shooters are briefed with a target description. On green, the targets are green, and on yellow, the threats are yellow. Targets won't always be wearing the same thing in real life, especially in guerrilla-type settings. Here, the shooters have just finished green and now face yellow threats. This shooter here is following his instructions to eliminate the threat downrange, which he finds here, in green.
Hey!
He gets a nice and juicy impact, unfortunately on the wrong target. But we don't say anything because we only call hits. He moves up to the next position to once again engage the wrong color threat. We do this to test how people retain the target description in stressful environments. Not only mental exhaustion, but physical exhaustion can lead to the same thing. Since exhaustion isn't something common on the flat range, we placed the shoot house near the end of the course so that competitors could feel the weight of their rifle setup. This is where you see the real pain of those accessories compared to a minimalist rifle. If you put it all on there, you gotta carry it. Here, the same shooter is worn out from a long course of fire, and upon entering, shoots the wrong target in blue, instantly realizing this with a head shake. Don't worry, he wasn't the only one. Good news is by the end, the competitor is now able to identify the threat and avoid innocent casualties like a boss. Something new competitors coming through still have to learn. When the competitors weren't murdering people, they were sometimes getting murdered by lack of awareness. In this same shoot house, there was a threat outside this window, which some passed by. This would have been night-night in real life, which is why solo CQB is not a good idea. In other shoot houses, the same thing happened even though we positioned this one to end up in their peripheral after passing it, and they still didn't notice it fixated on the new threat around the corner. In another scenario, we prompted them to find 2 threats through this window, before exiting to engage from the cover out front. With this hyper-focused trick, we had an immediate threat outside the door when it opens to engage. About half of them saw it and engaged it, and the other half simply walked right past it, hyper-focused on the 2 threats downrange that they saw from inside.
Targets.
When competitors weren't accidentally passing these threats, they were doing it on purpose. Sometimes they couldn't find the threat, so they decided to pass on to the next position, leaving a threat behind for later. This deducts points, of course, but in real life may deduct lives. Finding threats is a whole new ballgame outside of a perfect flat range, and being able to find targets isn't always horizontally convenient, like on the flat range. We randomly place targets at different elevation points as well to replicate terrain or even scanning structures that have multiple stories above your view. In a 3D world, you have an X, Y, and also a Z axis to worry about. Once you get good at finding threats, why would you cause yourself any vision malfunctions? Another sneaky part of our event is a mixture of lighting. Whether in structures or outdoors, you can go from light to dark, and the last thing you want is sunglasses ruining your ability to see properly. Here in the woods, it gets pretty dark, and you can see this competitor wearing glasses and realize he needs to ditch them. Here is the target in the distance, in the sunlit canopy opening, but I'm going to simulate what tinted vision does to the color when he approached. This desaturated vision wastes time and gives it to the enemy, who may have seen you already, which is why I always wear clear glasses if and when I do. Other shooters who had clear glasses or no glasses at all found these targets fast on approach for a quick hit. These glasses also cause problems when going into structures from outside in the daylight. Not only may it take a bit for your natural eyes to adjust to the darkness, but tinted sunglasses won't do you any favors. Weapon lights do help, but not as much as with clear glasses. This shooter was one of the few people who found an accidental target we left in this shed, since he saw it so easily with his clear glasses and weapon light. Rifle lights can be used from outside to see inside a structure or a dark area, even during daylight hours, and not exclusive to nighttime. Just don't go giving away your position with an accidental light discharge. Yes, you can see lights during the day, like this one at 160 yards. You can keep a light cover on like the 100 Concepts cap to avoid discharge. Just don't forget to take it off before you enter a dark area when you might need it. Back to the innocent victims from earlier, meet Dorothy. She's very far from home and wearing green, the color from the previous course of fire. With the outside lighting, she looks a bit yellow at first glance, but with a weapon light, you can identify her easier to see she poses no threat. I use these faces to show how fast shooters can analyze the target to make a decision, with the bad guys pretty easy to make out. If you have sunglasses, you'll definitely want a light to ID the target, although some still engaged even with a white light, something they need to work on. This is the main reason you don't see me wearing shades, even when I was overseas. A quick mention of hats as well. Hats can block your view behind the optic or at least bump them, forcing bad eye boxes, and you'll see the competitors either ended up flipping them backwards or taking them off altogether by the end. Now that we can see better without a hat bill, tinted vision, and a weapon light, let's not get too greedy behind the optic. Let's talk about getting sucked into your optic. If you keep your eyesight either scanning for targets until you find one, you can stay target focused and bring your optic into your eyesight. When we shoot pistols, we stay target focused and draw the pistol to our eye. And you can do the same thing with a rifle. This usually lines up your dot or reticle onto the target much faster, giving you the speed advantage. Now you can just let accuracy finish the job without a miss. Some shooters realize the target is far, get into the magnified optic, and scan around, wasting a lot of time.
Damn, I'm not seeing it.
When other shooters first find the target with the naked eye, and then drop down behind the optic for a fast first round hit.
Hey!
A larger field of view does help with finding multiple threats downrange compared to a smaller field of view, but finding the danger close to ones first with the naked eye is key here. Some of the more skilled shooters that came to the event are super good at finding you with the naked eye as they approach the position and pull the optic on the target to finish the job quickly. In my opinion, DMR shooters are very good at this skill. And when we place them in a pretend fight, clearly the person skilled with quick ID, positional work, and marksmanship will put your lights out before you even knew he was there. The guy blasting 6 misses at you just does you a favor and gives away his position for you to find and eliminate. The second shooter may be under fire, but a single well-aimed shot wins. If he then panned over to a second shooter and got an additional first round hit, because the second shooter was also getting misses. Too often we brush off misses when we train because they have no consequences. Going to competitions are great since you will get faster and more accurate, one of the great things about USPSA. But getting a miss should be unacceptable, even though here it's just a drain on your score. We all joke and brush off our misses, but in real life, whether defensive at home or in public, a miss could land you a hit unintentionally on the house behind the threat, with a family inside, or even the cars driving by. When it comes to less than public places, a miss just gives your enemy a greater probability of getting you. You should assume your enemy is equal to you or better, so you need to get ID, get into position, and get an accurate hit faster than they do.
Hit!
At this event, you clearly get penalized for misses, but this begs the question, does equipment and capability matter when faced with equal skill? We all search for the best optic that suits our needs, but do some perform better than others? We'll let you decide for yourself. Here's another example of the same shooter using a red dot and magnifier here, and a 1:6 when he came back for a future event. As he gets into position, the extra magnification with a finer reticle helps him land a fast, accurate hit before his former self does. If we combine skill sets with capabilities, you can see how much faster these designated marksmen on the left get 2 hits, compared to these assaulters with red dots on the right. A great example of the reality when we combine skill with capabilities, like having a magnified optic with a reticle. Red dots also cover a lot of the target at distance, lowering your confidence. But let's not pick on the red dot just yet, because we can run it with a magnifier. Magnifiers help a ton with red dots for low probability targets who may be behind cover or out to distance, as long as it has battery power. But you can also get sucked into the magnifier. If your threat is far away, you have plenty of time to flip it in place. But if your target is too close for comfort, you may not have the time to demagnify. In this scenario, we have 3 former Marines, a solo red dot, and 2 magnifier combos. As we like our sneaky tests, we had the shooters take 2 long shots at the previous position, which provoked magnifier usage. When heading to the next position, most magnifier gangs leave it in place, so we had 2 immediate close-range threats hidden up next. When instinct kicked in, of course, the solo red dot got the fastest first-round hit here, and the other 2 not only took longer to get the first hit since they were over-magnified at this range, but one chose to demagnify, which takes the control arm off, requiring a new sight picture on target. If I take the audio from the clips and place them down below, you can see not only did the red dot user get the first hit, he had the fastest split time between the 2 targets. Now this shooter here stays magnified and gets the next hit. As the other demagnifies, you can see he gets faster split times on the next target. This goes to show that unmagnified 1x is the fastest, and demagnifying is essential for fast split times. A recurring theme against solo red dots versus red dots with a magnifier on. The shooter on the right realizes this and flips his magnifier to the side to take the second shot. The quick fix here is to shoot target focus, like using an occluded dot, or get your magnifier out of the way after you leave your position, as soon as you get the hit, or the minute you enter into confined spaces. To be fair, Prism and Variable Gang also like to get sucked into their optics. These variable shooters left the position on a higher magnification, not knowing that the next 2 targets are danger close. You can see them pulling the optic to the eye correctly, but at this range they are so over-magnified, any movement loses your point of aim. This stalls the hits and splits compared to being on 1x, so remember to demagnify after some longer shots when leaving your position, or the minute you enter into confined spaces. On 1x, the wider field of view will help you find it faster, so you're not playing Where's Waldo, wasting time, and allows you to get faster hits on immediate threats. A lot of people think magnified optics hurt you pretty bad up close, and in this example, LPVO shooters didn't fare very much different than their red dot counterparts. This is a very important consideration that may help you decide to buy a second focal plane optic if you want to prioritize a fast 1x in danger close situations. Other shooters just ran a canted or top dot setup for a dedicated 1x to eliminate taking their support aim off the rifle to demagnify. These red dot combos were just as fast as the solo red dot users, unless they forgot to use them, defaulting to their scope under pressure. The ACOG users were pretty good about using their top red dots when surprised with close-range targets, as well as the ACOG canted dot users. Something you just gotta practice. In this crazy scenario, the shooter chose to tack reload on his way to the next position, where I had a hidden threat waiting here. Luckily, he's fast to react with his canted dot, landing 2 A-zone hits on demand. He also just so happened to win out my 3rd event with his ACOG combo, but let's not get to the optic stats just yet. When it came to structures, we can see that shooters with red dots were fast. The ones who forgot to demagnify were slower. The prism shooters were disciplined from training. The LPVO users on 1X fared well, as fast as the red dot users. The top dot users also seemed to be well polished, almost as fast as the red dot users. Canted red dots did well as expected. And some just decided to point shoot. A surprisingly effective technique when danger is this close. Even on moving targets. Although optic choices when used at this range all got hits. Just not the people who didn't see it. Now everyone wants to know which optics are the best, but before we finalize the results, let's see how they performed on the orange course. The orange course tests not only your ability to find the targets, but to eliminate them as fast as possible. In my LPVO video, I showed that even at 100 yards, a white target may be easy to find and hit, but a camo threat at the same distance isn't so easy. Shooters start in the brush and then run into position where they will load and make ready to eliminate as many as they can in a 3-minute par time. The targets are randomly placed anywhere from 50 to 500 yards, and we place an orange number within 25 yards of each target. This represents a general proximity and the target giving itself away by pretend gunfire. Shooters must call out the number they think they see and intend to hit, signifying a call out to the rest of their teammates, and so that we know which one to score correctly. I'll just tell you right now, solo red dots, especially with co-witness sight posts blocking their view, didn't do so hot. Once you take away a perfectly convenient colored targets at known distances out of the equation, red dots fall apart fast. Clearly the higher power scopes made quick work of
I
this,
see a 1.
with prisms and LPVOs going neck and neck based on the shooter's skill.
2.
Target 3.
Hit!
The shooter whose red dot failed had to use a pistol only and didn't do so well, although I give him mad respect for trying.
Hit!
Another reason you don't bring a pistol to a rifle fight. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, some shooters cleared out the whole course with only one miss.
Hit. Nice job and time.
As we tallied up the scores, clearly scopes dominated the top 10, with red dots all to the bottom of the pack on the orange course, as to be expected. Here you can see that the magnifiers helped a bit in the ranking, but the dot still covers a lot of the target out the distance, making it harder to exact your point of aim, assuming you chose a good 0 and know your holds. The EOTech, however, does stay the same size, making this a bit better, assuming you have battery life, because an optic that has no power to aim can cause some serious issues. If you've noticed throughout the video, when taking longer shots, you will most likely use some sort of support from cover to take a long shot. This means a threat would be much smaller in size, making your area to hit smaller than a full torso target, something magnified optics with reticles excel at. If you don't have any support, you may use the prone if you can, for stability and to keep your silhouette down, making your area available to hit very, very small. Another pain for the red dot users, even inside 100 yards. The orange course challenges some of the snake oil about how practical red dots are out to distance. Competitors who came red dot only to the first event ended up showing back up with either a magnifier, flipping it to the side when not in use, or switching completely to a magnified optic, and that's what this event is about. The value of orange course isn't worth as much as some of the other courses, but it's a great way to learn about your optic and marksmanship flaws. But remember, none of these targets will be in the same position since we change them every event. Now everyone wants to know which optic setup performed the best overall. On the first demo event, clearly variable power scopes dominated the top half, with red dots falling to the bottom. Strangely enough, the closer range fundamental stuff was actually worth the most points overall, compared to something like the orange course, yet magnified optics performed very close to the red dots at these closer distances than one would expect, sometimes indistinguishable. I mentioned before that up close the red dot is technically better, but not by a ton, where the variable is way better by a margin than the red dot at distance. Demo day 2, we only had 3 LPVO competitors, giving the top half to the magnifier red dot shooters to dominate, with prism dot shooters close by. A bit of revenge, but an EOTech magnifier did win against solo red dots at the bottom, the main reason you see them coming back with magnifiers. Now at the first official event, it was the time for the prism to shine by winning the event and dominating the top half. This was the most equal mixture of optics thus far, with LPVOs hovering around that top half, eyeballing first place. Probably the main reason the world's best shooters run LPVOs in competition. Maybe they're not as durable, but they do a lot in a lot of situations. Also note there wasn't a single red dot here without the ability to magnify at this event, even though they did live in the lower half of the rankings. Now don't get your validations fired up just yet, because none of these optic ranks matter. This 1-8 user here probably could have won the first event, but had a catastrophic ammo malfunction on one of the most valuable blue courses, sending him clear to 13th place. If I readjust the scoring metric to give orange course more value in comparison to the other courses on the third event, this competitor here would have won 2nd place that day, so take these rankings with a grain of salt. Also, if you noticed, a lot of scope users just ran the canted or top dot on the close range targets, which is why they weren't hurt as bad as you might think against the red dot users. The first event was dominated by top dots, the second by canted dots, and the third was about 50-50 at the top performers. I already made a video about this topic, but there's a reason canted dots are the choice pick for competitive shooters. In open areas, they blaze like having a red dot, but they do cause some problems here compared to top dots that have more versatility. You can see that using them in less than ideal situations isn't as friendly, as the top dot shooter finishes the job, while the canted dot user tries to make it work. They each have some pros and cons, so choose wisely. The canted dot definitely blazes during the day, but you may have to default to your 1x on your scope, like this shooter, when the canted position doesn't work out for you. Something he remembered to do the next time he was in this same situation.
Nice job.
The final note is that all winners had the superpower of magnification on their setups. The first event was won by a Vortex 2.5 to 10 variable, the second event by an EOTech and magnifier combo, and the third by an ACOG with a canted red dot, proving that skill is more important than the optics selection. This event was more about finding the limitations in your weapon setup, your gear, your ability to process information, and to perform to your max. Long range isn't too easy if you can't find the target. Target transitions aren't so fast when not everything is a threat, and maybe competitions are good for shooting skill, but not always reality. The best thing to do well here is to go train and get faster and more accurate hits with your setup. No misses, of course, and to make sure your gear is good to go. Huge thanks to Reptilia for sponsoring prizes for the winners and believing in the cause for this event. A lot of awesome prizes went home with all of the course's top 3 winners, to include a 30mm and a new 34mm AUS mount with top dot adapters, stocks, grips, and even the new inline QD sling mounts. If you paid attention to my videos, you would have noticed I love my Reptilia red dot mounts, which is why I have so many, and the AUS 30mm mount that you'll see real soon, so thanks again to Reptilia. These competitors really earned it. Thanks to everyone who came to put themselves to the test and support the event. I know blind courses are tricky, but you guys got some good experience not provided by a typical shooting range, and learned for yourself. This video seemed like a bunch of mistakes on Showcase, but these were all cherry-picked so you viewers could benefit from their minimal mistakes. Not to mention, we set this up to be very challenging and tricky to maximize experience. Some of these guys were so professional clearing structures with speed and accuracy, no misses, with amazing positional work and solid marksmanship on target, and putting their ego or introversion to the side to get better in front of their peers. Thanks to my awesome friends who staff the event and make this happen for the competitors. You guys have been with me for years, and dang do you guys deliver. Including the staff help from Whiskey Hotel here in Ohio for running the Orange course. Huge thanks to the range and its staff for supporting this unorthodox event. especially Tim, who was with me non-stop getting this ready. This guy is a beast and I couldn't have pulled it off without him. Lastly, thank you for watching. These videos are punishing to create, so you all watching contributes to the bigger picture. So send this video to a friend who may get some value from it. If you're interested in competing, follow my Instagram for dates or check HeroMod.com for ticket sales, especially if you Red Dot only users think you can take first place without magnification. I'll see you on the next video as I chase some performance myself with this SAI 6 I've been running all of this last year. Holy moly, do I love this thing.
Yeah, I saw him stretched out. I was like, you ain't getting away from me today.